Hey, good morning, Metropolis. It's now 5 after the hour of 6 a.m. in the big monster city.
Come on! Let's get pumped!
I'm not drinking any fucking Merlot! What can I say? The camera loves me.
Shall we begin?
After you, Junior.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Logged It. We're here for episode number 64. We're talking 1980s comedies. So lots to choose from, lots of interesting options tonight. And we got a fun panel to talk about these movies with. As always, we got Kaleb Boatman. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. I was like, yeah, because I pitched this episode and I was like, let's do something a little bit different because we rarely do like a decade in a genre. And I was like, let's try that. And I feel like the 80s is maybe one of, if not the best decades for comedies. So like, figure it'd be fun.
Yeah. And we got Brian here. Brian, how you doing, my friend?
Doing good. I wasn't on for a long time, and now you got to deal with me 2 weeks in a row. So there you go.
Absolutely. And as his name on StreamYard says, we have AA Ron joining us. How you doing, sir? And I don't think I've ever been on the show with you. I know you've been on the show, but I don't think I was here when you were on. So how you doing?
I avoided 10 weeks. I avoided 10 weeks. I avoided all weeks with Tim.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, no, I think this is the first time we've actually been on stream together for one of these. So yeah, I'm pumped to be here. I'm representing the 80s half of the panel with Brian, since you two were not born in the 80s. So I'm 89, so June of 89. So I got you, Brian. I
got the 70s for you too. So
Brian was born in 1988.
Yes.
Yes. So we're going to start off the show the way that we always do. We're going to start by talking about our favorite movies that we logged this week. So Boatman, why don't you kick us off on that and talk about your favorite movie you logged this week?
I don't have a ton of like new watches from this week, but you know what? Oh wait, no, I talked about that last week. Never mind. This is a good one. I watched A Woman Under the Influence this week, which is a John Cassavetes movie. This is one of those movies I feel like is fair to put in the category of like a performance movie. Like it is a movie that is largely centered around just a crushing performance from its lead, and that's Gina Rowlands. And she is incredible in this, like legit fantastic. Of the nominees, I'd say she probably should have won the Oscar. Peter Falk is also really good as her husband. Peter Falk is really good in like these types of movies, though you don't normally get to see him do these like more serious roles, but I like it when he gets that because he's like really charming. Rowlands is great, and it's just kind of like a view into a character just kind of mentally unraveling, and I think that's really interesting.
I've never seen this, but I've heard of it. Obviously, it's a pretty popular movie, and I've heard good things about it. I actually haven't delved super far into John Cassavetes, but I want to. Kirk has told me that I would like a lot of these movies, so I do want to check them out, but haven't yet. Aaron, have you seen this?
Yeah, I have, and Kirk liked it on Letterboxd. So every time, obviously I do a Cassavetes review if I don't get the like there. But yeah, it's a great movie. I didn't know anything about it. It was the second Cassavetes movie I'd ever seen besides Killing of a Chinese Bookie, and it was very different from that. But yeah, it's definitely all about the performance. I mean, literally, her performance is everything in the movie, and Peter Falk makes everything a little bit better as well. So huge fan of this movie, though.
Brian, what about you?
I have not seen this movie. Don't know anything about it.
Okay. Cool. Sounds good. I don't have my pick chosen yet, so let's go to Aaron.
Yeah, I got to watch plenty of new stuff because I'm terrible at trivia, so I don't have to prepare for matches like some people do right now. But All Quiet on the Western Front on Netflix, the new one. Hadn't seen the original yet. Wasn't really expecting anything out of the Netflix version. I just kind of put it on, and usually the way that goes is you kind of forget about the movie. This turned out to be, like, honestly, one of the best war movies I've seen, definitely in the 2020s. I mean, I prefer it to 1917. And it is kind of along similar lines. It is a German movie, so and again, takes place in World War One. I knew nothing really about it. I do want to watch the original after seeing it. Super brutal though. Definitely does not shy away from any of kind of the, themes you explore in a lot of these war movies. So it's not like reinventing the wheel, but it's really well done, except for the score. The score was really weird to me. It had like the sample from Black Skinheads keep playing again, that part only over and over again throughout the movie. So it really was a weird choice. It was like a modern score in this movie taking place in World War One. But besides that, everything else about it was great. I wish I would have saw it in a theater. As usual, Netflix doesn't advertise it. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. This was really good. I highly recommend it.
I want to watch this because I had heard some things about it. I haven't seen the original either, but I saw that this was coming out on Netflix, and I was like, whatever. But I've heard the same thing, that it's brutal, really, really good. My go-to thing with Netflix movies lately has been when I'm just like out and like watch them on my phone, like as much as did the weird ones. Like, so this is not going to be one that I do that.
Do not watch this on your phone.
Yeah, well, I do. It's mainly the ones that like I'm lately, like I watched, and it's not just Netflix, most of the streaming stuff. So like I watched The Greatest Beer Run Ever or whatever today. I watched that on my phone, like stuff like that. That's just a little more like breezy. And but this was one that I didn't even realize it was like German spoken language and stuff. So like I'm gonna watch it at home. I might check it out tomorrow because I've been wanting to see it, and now that I know that it's out, I might check this out. So, or I'm definitely going to check it out. But Boatman, did you get a chance to watch this yet?
I don't know if I need to. Like I really like the original, so it's like I'm good.
That's fair. Brian.
Yeah, this I have not watched this one yet. This is on my watch list because I heard about it and it sounded really good. I haven't had a whole lot of time in the past week or so since it came out to watch a lot of movies. And honestly, foreign films tend to sit on my watch list a little longer, not because I don't like them, but because if I'm going to watch those, I have to actually watch it. So I can read the subtitles and things. I can't be doing other things while I'm watching a foreign film. So this is what I definitely plan to check out, but just have not yet.
Cool. All right. I have picked mine now. I'll go next. And I'm pretty sure I knew this was going to be it, but I had to double check that there wasn't anything else. Mine's also a new release, Tar. I went and saw this on Thursday with Maggie and love this movie. I haven't seen, is it Little Children? Is that the last film? What is it? Yeah. And I hadn't seen that, but I forget who brought it. I think Payson might have brought that one up on the show here.
Scott. It was Scott because he hated it.
Oh, fair. But I really loved this. I don't want to get too much into like the spoilers and the plot of anything, because I think that the fact that I hadn't even seen a trailer, I just knew it was Cate Blanchett and it was a like pretty big performance from her. So I went to see it and I wound up loving it. It's 2 hours and 38 minutes, which is pretty intense, but honestly, that didn't bother me at all. There's something really cool here where like, and I normally don't pick up on these types of things, but like this movie, the way it was like shot and the editing and everything was like super specific to what was going on in the story at the time. And like the fact that I picked up on that was like really cool to me, because I don't see those like artsy things on first viewing usually, but it is a thing where like the movie starts and there's a lot of like one shot long scenes of dialogue, and they're all fantastic. But as the movie gets further in and the drama and the chaos starts to like go further and further, the scenes get quicker, the editing gets faster, and everything just moves quicker as it goes on. I thought that was really smart, that the movie itself, in the way that it looked and paced itself as the character was kind of, going cuckoo in the sense of like the context of the movie, which again, I don't want to spoil. The movie went along with it, and I thought that was really cool. this movie has awesome, like, because she's a composer. It has like really great needle drops and that, I mean, like, all of a sudden we're just like put into the middle of this like incredible orchestra sequence where she's conducting, and was basically like a huge jump scare in the theater that freaked Maggie out. And then you have like seriously straight up, like, I don't know if I would say this is her best performance, but it's up there. She's so good in this movie. It's kind of insane, like, how good she is. And I just thought the movie was really timely in what it was saying, in a very, very interesting way, in a way that I hadn't seen before. So yeah, I really loved this. And I also, there's a weird niche thing, but I said it to Maggie after the movie. I said to her that it was, I think I have like a niche thing for movies where you're like thrown into certain specific worlds and nothing is explained to you whatsoever. So like, I love a movie like Chef, but they do a really good job of kind of like showing you like the behind the scenes world of restaurants and like how it works and stuff. This movie throws you into that like orchestra, live music world, and doesn't hold your hand at all. They like throw out terms and like words and stuff, and you're supposed to just like pick up and figure out what anything is happening like with certain characters and things in that world. And I've found that I really like it when movies do that for some reason. So I was like in from the beginning of this. I just thought it was so good. Boatman, have you seen this yet?
No, but I really want to. Tim, though, I'm curious. You gave that example of like you really like when movies do that. Do you have another movie that does that?
I can't think of anything like off the top of my head. I know they exist. I know they exist in this, like, because I'll find one and I'll send it to you.
That's valid.
But yeah, this is top 3 of the year for me, for sure.
I've heard great things from people who usually don't agree, so I'm very excited for this.
Yeah. Aaron, have you seen this?
Yeah, I have. I loved it. I can't really put it better than you did there with a lot of what you mentioned, with especially the technical aspects. I think that's like it's almost like an artsy movie made for everybody, if that makes any sense. And it's just like, it's amazing. This woman is so fascinating, yet I had no idea she existed until this movie happened.
Is it a true story?
No,
but like, you know, it's like, no, but it's like these types, like, it's like, no, I didn't.
Yes.
Yeah, like, but it's just like, just that these types of people, it's like, it's not that far off from a lot of people's
experience. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Right, yeah, and it's just like, the layman's comparison to Whiplash, it's much more than female Whiplash, which I've seen the comparisons to as well. But yeah, I'm looking forward to a rewatch of it as well. Super tense watch, and doesn't feel like the length of the movie at all, which is just a compliment to, I think, the editing and the pacing that it keeps. Yeah. So yeah, well said.
Brian, have you seen this?
You say it's a film made for everybody. Is it made for me? That's the question. Because I'm torn on this movie, because like I love Kate Blanchett.
An artsy film made for everybody.
That's just it. I love Kate Blanchett, and even though it's not this company, it just looks like it feels very A24. Like, how A24 is this movie?
Yeah, it's A24 adjacent. It's probably more a neon, production.
Okay. So it might not be made for me. No, this is one that, I mean, like I said, I love her, and I'm sure there's an audience for it. I'm not sure it's me. Todd Field's other movies he's directed are very, dreary with little children, and was it In the Bedroom, I think was the other one. Yeah. For just like last week, I talked about my favorite Philip Seymour Hoffman movie will always be Twister. It will also be my favorite Todd Field movie. So, of course, I only acted in that one. But so this is one that, I mean, I might check out eventually. It's the kind of thing I'll probably check out maybe Oscar season when it starts picking up some nominations, assuming it does, which from everything I heard of, at least she probably will. But I'm not in a rush to see it. Just not my kind of thing.
I think she'll win, honestly, at this point. Like, there's yet to be anything else I've seen this year that even comes close. So, okay. Let's move on to Brian. Your favorite movie you logged this week?
Well, like I said, I didn't watch a whole lot this week. Honestly, both my best and my worst movie I watched this week would be the same movie, but I'm not going to talk about that one because it was talked about last week, and that's Tammy and the T-Rex. Because it's a horrible movie. That was a ton of fun to watch. But they just talked about that last week, so I want to talk about that. I'm actually going back a little bit more than a week ago. I rewatched the movie The Peacemaker from 1997. This is a George Clooney and Nicole Kidman movie, directed by Mimi Leader, who also did like Deep Impact and other stuff I can't remember offhand, top of my head. But this is like kind of where George Clooney was like first like becoming a movie star. I mean, he had done like the TV stuff. He'd become big on ER, and then he did like From Dusk Till Dawn, and this was his first like main starring role beyond that. It was also DreamWorks' first live action movie. It's essentially Jack Ryan. I think I said in my review, it's the best Jack Ryan movie ever made that didn't actually have the character Jack Ryan in it, because it's essentially the same character. It's basically him playing a Jack Ryan type person. The action and drama, it's got the same kind of tone to it, where it's not an all-out action movie, but it's not like a drama. It's kind of a combination of the two. I think George does a great job. He actually managed to bring like his kind of brand of kind of a dry humor into even like really serious moments. It's got a great score to it. Yeah, but this is like I said, I didn't watch a lot of movies this week, so it wasn't a lot to pick from. But this is one that I hadn't watched in a long time, so I rewatched it and I really enjoyed it.
Excuse me, I'm like choking. Wow, that's awkward. Anyway, I have not seen this, but it sounds interesting. I'm always game for the Clune, so yeah. Boatman.
I've also not seen this, but I've heard mixed things. So, yeah.
And Aaron.
Yeah, have not seen this one, but I am a fan of 90s Clooney, so it's just a blind spot. But yeah, haven't seen it.
Okay. So let's move back to Boatman for his least favorite.
Yeah, I don't have anything really bad, but I'm going with another Cassavetes movie. I'm going with Husbands. This movie was not bad per se, but it just felt so unfocused and just kind of boring. The scenes go on like really long. It's a hangout movie, but unlike a lot of like great hangout movies, the dialogue isn't particularly like fun to listen to. Like Cassavetes is a good writer and he wrote this, but it felt like just kind of. It felt like Ben Gazzara, Peter Falk, and John Cassavetes had nothing to do for a weekend, so they decided to make a movie. And I like Ben Gazzara, Peter Falk, and John Cassavetes as actors. So, that's why the movie's at like a 2.5 for me. But I really think that there's just there's a scene in a bar where they're singing, and it just goes on and on and on and on. Like it didn't work for me like Cassavetes' other films do.
I have not seen this, but you're not doing much to sell me on it for sure. Aaron, have you seen it?
Yep, I've seen it. Yeah, it's pretty much meaningless 70s hangout weird movie with people you don't exactly want to hang out with, but they are great actors. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't ever revisit it. I don't really remember much more than he mentioned, but that bar scene does go on a very long time. I do remember that.
Brian, what about you?
I have not seen this movie, and honestly, I'm not even sure if I've ever heard of it.
Fair enough. All right, Aaron, let's move to you. Your least favorite of the week.
Mine, so watching a lot of horror movies being original over the last month here. And I decided to finish off the Eli Roth watches. And I got to Green Inferno. And it is as bad as everybody warned me it was. The Spy kid is in it. Some other people are in it. It's just like it's taking like the bad character horror trope to like the highest degree. For sure. And there's a lot of very memorable scenes for all the wrong reasons. I think that Eli Roth was trying to make a point that people do good things to get attention, and that's bad. So yeah, deep Eli Roth horror.
I have seen this. I saw this in the theater actually.
Oh my god.
Me and Maggie went and saw this together. So imagine my poor little wife watching Inferno in the theater.
Yeah.
And I told her, it's cannibals. It's gonna be fun. It was not. But the other Eli Roth movie, which I want to say came out the same year, Knock Knock.
Yes.
Terrible film.
Mm-hmm.
But you get to hear Keanu Reeves say, you fucked me multiple times. And that's way more fun. This movie's bad. He needs to stop casting his wife. I think he has, but he needed to stop doing that much earlier. But yeah, this thing is a big old pile.
Who is she in the movie? Who is she?
I think she's the main girl.
Oh yeah,
Justine.
Yeah, and then she's also she's the not Ana de Armas girl in Knock Knock. So oof. Big oof. Boatman, why were you there opening night for this movie?
Oh yeah, me, biggest Eli Roth fan around. Like it's me, then Ethan Beller.
Yep.
No, like this looks like I would vomit several times.
So bad.
That's accurate. Brian?
Yeah, I have no problem with gross out and gore kind of horror. I mean, I've just talked recently about Terrifier 2, which I love that one, and that's just like gore fest beginning to end. So I mean, it's not the styling we didn't like offend me, didn't make me grossed out or anything like that. But I mean, Eli Roth just is not a good director, and he doesn't know what to do with his story or his characters. To be honest, I don't remember much of this movie specifically. I do remember seeing like the Spy Kids kid in it, Daryl Sabara, whatever his name is, who honestly I just found out this week is married to Meghan Trainor. Had no idea. But I don't remember much about the movie, but I just looked it up and apparently I gave it a 0.5-star rating when I did see it. So there you go.
Wow, we agree on the movie. Like
that makes it true. I think Aaron Brian is the same as a Brian Kirk. If we both agree on something, it's true.
That's fair. Brian, let's go to you so I can finish eating this taco.
Okay. Again, not counting Tammy and the T-Rex. I didn't watch anything truly horrible this week. But I'd say my least favorite of the week is one that Aaron will probably love if he hasn't seen it yet. I don't know. It's called Triangle of Sadness. This is a movie that I actually didn't have any interest in seeing, and then I heard some good things about it. I'm like, you know what? It's opening around me. I'm going to check it out. So I kind of optimistic going into it, and I went and saw it, and I don't hate it. It's not awful. It is definitely my least favorite one I saw this week, though. It's a movie that has some interesting characters in it, some interesting, acting going on there. But the story just kind of meanders. It's kind of broken into 3 acts. The first one, basically, you have these 2 characters who are interesting, but it doesn't really go anywhere. The second act turns into like gross out comedy, and it seems like it's a completely different movie. And then the third act, it takes a weird turn, which I won't go into. Although I will say the worst part about this movie, the thing that bothered me the most, is that it's like 2 hours and 23 minutes long, and it feels at least that long, if not longer. You feel every minute of it. But then it leads to this ambiguous non-ending that just feels like, okay, I just wasted that 2 hours and 23 minutes of my time, which some people might go for that kind of thing. Again, I just might not be the audience for it, but I gave it a chance. It was all right. Like I said, I like the performances in it, but the movie itself,
I really want to see this. I haven't seen it yet. It hasn't opened anywhere close, and it's about an hour away. I would have to go to watch this. And I was actually thinking about going tomorrow because I saw Brian's like 2.5-star review, and I said, well, it's a little on the artsier side, so maybe this would be like a 4-star for me. Like,
take my review or something like that.
So I was like, maybe I'll go check this out, and I'd have to drive like an hour, and then I saw, Mark Menchaca gave it 3.5. Payson gave it 3.5. So I think it is a movie I would like, and I do want to watch, but I don't think I'm going to drive an hour to go see it. I'm going to, save that trip for when Banshees comes out next week. I would much rather drive an hour to go see that. Like I did when McDonough's last movie came out. I drove to the same theater an hour away to see it. I'm going to save that trip for that movie, but I do want to check this out. So when it comes out on VOD, I will watch it. Or if it comes to the place, 15 minutes from me, then I will definitely watch it. Then, Boatman, have you seen this yet?
No, I haven't. I've heard basically nothing about it. So I don't know if I will see it.
Fair. Aaron, what about you?
I've had it recommended to me like 200 times at this point. Everybody is like, this is completely
It's an
your
Aaron movie. It's an Aaron movie.
Yeah, and usually people are right when they say that. I literally am going to see it tomorrow. I'm very, very excited about it. And 2.5 stars from Brian. Now my hype has never been more excited. Just literally all my favorite movies, I think he's rated them all 2 or lower. So it's like really, my hype has never been higher than that. So I'm glad that you didn't like it, Brian. I'm so like, but he's not the first person to say this is an Aaron movie, and I take that very complimentary and fairly expect some things what to expect from this movie. So I'm excited, but I haven't seen it yet.
Fair. Okay. I'll go next. If I was going purely based on like awful, worst, I'd probably go with the new release, Pray for the Devil. But at the end of the day, I wasn't expecting anything from that. So it was hard because I just sat there and I was like, yeah, this is just as bad as I thought it was going to be. But honestly, one that I thought looked like it could be good, but ended up getting some rough reviews, but I still checked it out anyway, was the new Netflix movie, The School for Good and Evil. I really didn't like this, which was a bummer. And I know it's like a young adult novel. And so when it came to like the story and everything, I kind of gave it a little bit of leeway based on that, because like I was thinking to myself, well, if you look at just the plot of the first Harry Potter movie, like there's a lot of stupid bullshit in that, but I love it nonetheless. And so I kept giving it a chance. The lead characters just aren't very interesting. Like for the setup here, like there's 2 friends. One of them is like, ooh, she wears all black and has brown hair. And then the other one wears all white and has blonde hair. And then they go to the School for Good and Evil. And guess what? The blonde one gets put in the evil school. Oh no! Like, it's just like, wow, what a twist. And so you could see everything coming from a mile away. There's great actors here, like Charlize Theron and Kerry Washington play kind of the main headmistresses of like the respective schools, and Lawrence Fishburne shows up. But it's just like, I don't know. There was just something missing about the whole movie. Visually speaking, I thought it actually looked really good. Like the visual effects were decent. And I thought the performances were okay. Just like, so I don't know what it was about it that just didn't click. Like I think it had the potential to be something really, really cool. But it felt, and I think Brian summed it up really well in his review, which I know he didn't even finish the film, but like it felt very more on the line of The Descendants on Disney Channel more than a Harry Potter. I feel like if they channeled a little bit more of that dark stuff, the movie actually is PG-13, but somehow still feels like G-rated. But if it went a little harder into the darker stuff, like the later Harry Potter films, I feel like this could have been really cool. But it ends up being more of a Mortal Instruments or a, something like that, where it just kind of fell flat, which was disappointing because the talent around it was really great. Although Paul Feig is just like on a big L streak for me. Like I don't love Bridesmaids. I'm like one of those people that is weird and doesn't love that movie, but I actually like The Heat. I really like Spy. I think Spy is a hilarious movie. But between this, Last Christmas, that fucking terrible one with Daenerys Targaryen, and then what else did he make recently? I'm missing something.
Simple Favor, but that was a good one.
Yeah, I thought it was all right. I didn't.
Did you already say Ghostbusters?
Oh, and Ghostbusters, which is just okay. Like, so he's just on an L streak for me. Like, I don't know. But Boatman, did you watch this?
No. I remember Paul Feig went on a rant about someone who gave this movie a negative review on Twitter, so that was funny.
Brian, what about you? I know you said you.
Yeah, Paul Feig goes on a rant anytime someone says anything besides full praise of any of his movies. He finds scapegoats and other reasons why they didn't like it. yeah, Paul Feig, I don't tend to like most of his stuff. I mean, I loved like back in the days of Freaks and Geeks, things like that. And I thought Simple Favor was pretty good, but the rest of his movies, not so much. Yeah, like you said, I didn't actually finish this movie. I logged it as a partial view, but I didn't rate it because I don't rate something unless I watch the whole thing. Because I watched about a half an hour of it and I tapped out because, yeah, I think I said it looks and feels like every other failed YA franchise wannabe ever. And it really was. It's got good actors in it, like you said, Charlize Theron, Kerry Washington, but they're totally hamming it up. It's clearly made for more of that YA or a younger audience than me, which isn't saying much, but a much younger audience than me. And so I'm sure there are people out there that will love this movie. It just was not going to be me. And yeah, it definitely was. It felt like Hogwarts meets Disney Descendants, because I didn't even realize at the time, but then they started talking about like one of the characters, their dad is Captain Hook, and somebody else was related to some other fairy tale character. I'm like, oh, they're just going straight for Descendants. Okay, cool. But yeah, I can't comment more because I only watched the first half hour.
Aaron, what about you?
Nope, not gonna watch a 2.5 hour.
This is an Aaron movie. No,
I haven't seen a second of a Harry Potter movie. I'm not gonna see a second of a Harry Potter movie based on no.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. Boatman, you want to kick off the list stuff?
Yeah, totally. So we're gonna go into 1980s comedies. My first pick is going to be, you know what? It's November. Movies are coming up, and this is one I always gotta watch. I'm going with Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I think this is like the perfect buddy road trip comedy. Like, I think Steve Martin and John Candy are basically the ultimate like comedic, like straight man, crazy one duo. And I think they're so good at it. And I think the thing that this movie really has is the emotional aspect of it. Like, the actual comedy is great. Like the scene where the mess around scene, or the you're going the wrong way, or his rant, those are all very funny. But like they actually make you care about these characters, particularly Del Griffith, who is a character who, if mishandled, could have been one of the most annoying characters in cinema. And I think specifically with the My Wife Likes Me scene, they know how to do it. So I think this is a fantastic film. John Hughes best, in my opinion. Aaron?
Yeah, no, I love this movie. This is just one of my favorite movies to watch with my family, probably. And from when I was a kid to still, like, as a grown adult, going back and watch. Like, yeah, it's just endlessly rewatchable. It's got the heart. It's got the comedy. It's even one of those 80s comedies where they can't say it's not funny anymore for any particular reason. Maybe some other movies we'll talk about. But, yeah, it's a good one.
I actually saw this for the first time back in 2019. I had never seen it, and my good buddy, friend of the show, Tyler Butler, he was like, "You son of a bitch," and so he lent me his copy of it, and I watched it, and it's great. It's so great. The big scenes that Boatman brought up, like the My Wife Likes Me thing, the big scene with Steve Martin saying the F-bomb, and the kind of the behind the scenes of like that scene's the reason the movie got rated R. I think is really funny, but they like left this. They had to have that scene in there and had to have it be that explosive. I love that shit. It's just fantastic. It's one of those movies where like it lived up to the hype, where everyone was like, this is just a great Thanksgiving, like holiday, like Hughes movie. And the performances are fantastic, and it genuinely lives up to it. I don't know that Maggie's ever seen this one. Have you ever seen Planes, Trains, and Automobiles? Not all the way through. It's coming out on 4K in a couple weeks, just in time for the holiday. So you bet Timmy will pick this up, and we'll give it a holiday watch this year. Maybe I'll make Maggie's parents watch it. They'd enjoy that. So, Brian, what about you?
This is a movie that I enjoy, but I don't seem to love it as much as everyone else does. To me, it's got some classic scenes to it. It's got a lot of funny moments to it. But as a whole, as a movie, I'm like, it's okay. It's not. I think Steve Martin's done better movies. I think John Candy's done better movies. As John Hughes goes, for me, it's like mid range, probably on my list of his. But I mean, it's funny. I just don't have quite the same love for it as most people.
Okay. Aaron, let's go on to you.
Yeah, I have a lot of different kind of ways I was thinking about going with kind of my favorite 80s comedy, but I'm actually going to go with my favorite 80s comedy I've seen this year that I'm not sure if I would have liked at earlier times in my life as much, but it's 9 to 5. This movie I just think is absolutely hilarious and just has some really great twists in it that I don't want to give away, but the 3 performances, Lily Tomlin, Jane Fonda, and Dolly Parton, as well as I forgot who plays the boss.
Dabney
Coleman.
Yeah, but Dabney is great as well. And yeah, it's just like unfortunately a really timeless message with this movie, and it doesn't hit you over the head like a remake of this movie would, in my opinion. Sorry if my dog barks for a second, someone's coming in the house, but either way, like, yeah, it's just, it's like a very powerful feminist movie, but it also has a lot of kind of, like workplace diversity messages to it as the movie goes on as well. It goes down some very dark paths as well. And again, Dolly Parton, I think, is my favorite of the 3, but all 3 of the leads are just really represent different people in the workplace really well to this day. It's like, again, came out so long ago, 50 years ago now, 40 years ago, 40 plus years ago. So yeah.
I have not seen this one, but I want to. I've heard a lot of good things about it. The song is a banger, so that's what pretty much what gets you in the door. Boatman.
Oh yeah, no, this one's fun. This doesn't hit the highs for me, but it's also been a minute since I've seen it, so it might be one that is due for a rewatch. I remember really liking Lily Tomlin. I remember thinking like Jane Fonda was fine and that Dolly Parton was just kind of doing the Dolly Parton thing, but that was fun. But Lily Tomlin being the one that I really like. And there are some really unique jokes told in this movie that I really like. Those are probably my favorite elements of this movie, specifically when you like get each of their murder fantasies for the boss. I think that's maybe the best like section of the movie, and I almost wish it would have gone a little bit longer. But specifically, Lily Tomlin's is the funniest because they do kind of like a Snow White parody, and it's quite funny. So those elements of the movie I really enjoy. Overall, though, I remember a lot of the jokes not quite like hitting for me as much, but it's probably due for a rewatch.
Brian, what about you?
Yeah, I just added it to my watch list because I have seen this movie. I think I've seen it a few times, but probably not since the mid 80s. So it's been a long time to where I don't remember much of anything about it. I mean, my only exposure to 9 to 5 in the past, 30 years is Deadpool 2. So, but yeah, I added it to my rewatch. I think I remember liking it, but I also don't remember much about it.
That's fair. Okay. Let's move on to you know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to get this out of the way right away. I'll go because I have a feeling that I'm just going to piss everyone off because I love this movie. I'm going to say this right out. The movie I'm going to bring up, I unabashedly love like so much. And I know it's not perfect, but everyone hates it. And I don't get it. I love this movie. I'm talking about Mel Brooks' Spaceballs, baby. I love this movie so much. I think it has a lot to do with the fact I saw this when I was a kid. And the concept of like a spoof movie was like the most revolutionary thing I had ever seen in my life. Like when the movie opens with like The Crawl and I was like, oh my God, it's Star Wars. And my dad is like, ha! This ain't your sister's Star Wars there, kid. This is the Spaceballs. And I just immediately loved it. I love most of the John Candy, bringing him up again. I love him in this movie. I love just the Schwartz and yogurt and just honestly like all of this dumb spoofy shit. I think it's because it makes fun of a lot of shit that I love and it does it in a way that I think is very funny, like, and so stupid. And honestly, I like Mel Brooks a lot, but I have not gone through his filmography. I have a lot of blind spots in his filmography. So I struggle to say this is like my favorite Mel Brooks movie when I haven't seen a lot of like the big hits. So, but I do love it. I think there's lots of just really incredible jokes that are so dumb, like Comb the Desert. I think is hilarious. The radar sir has been jammed. I fucking love that shit. I am your father's uncle's cousin's roommate. Like, what does that make us? Absolutely nothing. I don't know, man. I love it. The giant fucking vacuum cleaning lady, great. Just fantastic shit. I could watch this movie at any time. It's like a crisp 95 minutes. Mwah, perfection. Boatman, why am I crazy?
I'm not gonna say crazy. I don't hate this movie. I usually agree with a lot of the points the people who hate this movie make. I don't hate this movie because I think this movie, about 50% of this movie is actually great. All the stuff with Scroob is so fun. I think the idea of putting Rick Moranis as your Darth Vader is a hilarious, incredible idea. I think that is so funny. And all the jokes that I think legitimately, like, one of the funniest scenes of the 80s is the VHS scene. Like, that stuff.
Instant cassette.
When did that happen? Now. What we're watching is happening right now. Like, that is so fun. The Lone Star barf, like, Princess Vespa stuff doesn't work for me. That's the half of that movie that I don't care about. And I love like Young Frankenstein, right? Or I love Blazing Saddles. Those are two very different Mel Brooks movies. Young Frankenstein is, hey, let's be like as close to Frankenstein as we can while adding in all these jokes. Blazing Saddles is, hey, let's just like murder the heck out of these movies and have like a heavy layer of satire. Spaceballs kind of tries to do both, and in essence does neither. So that, I think that's kind of my biggest problem with it, is that. But like I said, the Scroob stuff is hilarious.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. Aaron.
Yeah, I also saw this movie as a kid. Grew up loving Star Wars. Never knew about parody films till I saw this and had pretty much the same epiphany that parody. I thought this movie invented parody. So I haven't revisited it in 20 plus years. I'm not sure if I'd like it or not, but it did inspire me as a kid. My real last name is Brooks. Fun fact for everybody. It's not Jay. So when I was a kid learning about Mel Brooks, I was like, oh, is he related to me? He's not. But went back, watched all his movies. My favorite Mel Brooks movie, easily History of the World Part 1. Nothing close to that with how much he made me laugh at that. But Spaceballs was, perfect for the age I watched it at. And I almost don't want to revisit it. A lot of these movies from then that I revisit, I'm not grateful to. So might just leave it where it was at. But definitely enjoyed it when I did. I didn't know this movie was hated. So, yeah.
I get shit for it all the time. I feel like Brian doesn't like it. Brian?
That leads right into me. Okay. So I saw this movie, honestly, an advanced screening, honestly, back in 1987. And I loved it at the time. I thought it was hilarious, mostly because I love Star Wars. And hey, look, this is a comedy making fun of Star Wars. That's awesome. Of course, this is before thousands of other better parodies and things, and of course YouTube and whatever else did better spoofs of Star Wars. But I mean, over the years, I still consider this like one of the Mel Brooks movies I liked, because like I love Young Frankenstein. But other than that, Mel Brooks movies I really hate. I don't find them funny at all. It's just to me, it's just like the worst kind of like dad jokes and puns and all these kind of things. They're just like the lowest hanging fruit. It's like, oh, it's basically 2 hours of eye rolling when I watch his movies. Which again, comedy is very subjective, so some people like it, some people don't. But this is one of the ones I thought, oh, I still like this movie. But then I rewatched it a couple years ago. I'm like, yeah, I don't even think I like this one anymore either. It's just, I like a lot of people in it. I'm glad this movie basically introduced us to Bill Pullman. I even like Daphne Zuniga. Of course, John Candy's always good. Their roles in this movie, not so much, but I like those actors specifically. And of course, the worst parts of the movie are anytime Mel Brooks is actually in his own movies, because the whole thing with yogurt and all that stuff was the stupidest stuff in the world. But yeah, Mel Brooks, not for me, unless it's Young Frankenstein.
It's fair. All right, Brian, we're gonna stick with you. What is your first pick?
I'm going to go with another 1987 movie. I'm going with
Popular year this list.
yes, the directorial debut, feature film directorial debut of one Danny DeVito, Throw Mama from the Train. Throw Mama from the Train is essentially kind of a remake of Hitchcock's Strangers on a Train. They even talk about it in the movie. They want to copy, what they did in that movie, where two people basically switch murders, although only one person is aware that they're taking part in this. It's Billy Crystal and Danny DeVito, who I think have great chemistry together. This is Billy Crystal kind of as he was hitting the height of his popularity in comedy. This is right before When Harry Met Sally. But I just think they're the two of them and their style of comedy, and I think it just blends perfectly. Danny DeVito's playing, you used to see him as a very gruff person, and here he's a kind of very innocent, almost childlike person, and Billy Crystal is kind of this jaded, sarcastic author who's just hates his wife. And so the whole thing is he says he wants his wife to die, and Owen, Danny DeVito, wants his mom dead because she's so controlling of his life, and so he wants to switch murders, and they do each other's murders so they won't get caught. One of the best things about this is Anne Ramsey, who plays his mom. She got an Oscar nomination for this movie. Anybody who hasn't seen this movie, you'll know her as Mama Fratelli from The Goonies. She's done other stuff as well, but that's what she's most well known for. She is phenomenal in this movie. She is a ton of fun. Like I said, Oscar nominated for it. It's interesting to watch this movie also because it was clearly filmed as an R-rated movie and then cut down to a PG-13 because there's several points where you can see them mouthing other words than what comes out. It looks like a TV edit or something like that. But this is a movie, if you like comedy, if you like either of these actors, I think you'll really enjoy this movie.
I haven't seen this, but I've heard a lot of good things. I believe Cody recommended it to me. If it wasn't Cody, it was Boatman.
It was probably Cody. I know he really likes this.
Okay, then it was probably.
Or wait, no, he doesn't really like it. He and I are on the same page, so I don't know who.
Could have been Hanley.
Somebody liked it. I want to watch it, but I haven't. Boatman, go ahead.
Yeah, I think Danny DeVito is kind of, in terms of directing, a master of the dark comedy. He's really good at making movies. Just the way these movies look, they look exactly how they should look, which is kind of weird, which makes it kind of funny, but kind of scary. And I think that's exactly the tone that he is looking for. I think he's master of this. I will say, I think Brian pointed out, the one, flaw of this movie, which is I wish they would have just gone a little bit farther with it. And I'm guessing DeVito probably did want to go farther with it, but the studio is no, this needs to be PG-13. Because, you look at then his next movie where he gets to actually do what he wants, War of the Roses.
Oh, I love that.
That is I think that's his masterpiece. That is just all out. And I wish this movie would have gone as far as that. But still, I will quote with my dad loves this movie, and I will quote, Owen doesn't have any friends all the time. This movie is very fun, and that's mainly due to DeVito's directing. Billy Crystal's, of course, always fun. And Anne Ramsey, who is great. I'm so glad they gave the rare comedic performance nom because she's super fun.
Aaron, what about you?
I've never heard anybody say anything about this movie till tonight. So I've heard of it, but then not. I'm interested now. I'm a fan of Danny DeVito's other work too. So just I'd never really heard anything good or bad about this. I felt it. So interesting.
Cool. All right. Boatman, we're back up to you.
Yeah. I'm between a few. There's one that it's I want to pick this one, but I feel like Brian will pick it, so I maybe want to do something else.
I'm not.
I'll take it, Brian. You can. I feel like you'll have more interesting picks than I will anyway. I'm going with the Blues Brothers. I think the Blues Brothers is just kind of the perfect, one of my favorite subgenres of comedy is the epic comedy, a comedy that has the scale and effort and massiveness of an actual epic, but it's still a comedy. And I think the Blues Brothers absolutely applies. Like, this is a massive movie, not necessarily in terms of runtime, but in terms of scale, specifically with that car chase, which is like one of my favorite car chases in all of cinema. And I think Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi are just so perfect working off of each other. There's a reason they were like the duo on SNL, because they just work off of each other so well. And the music scenes in this are so fun. The Everybody Needs Somebody to Love is so fun. I also really like the when they're in the country western, like the bar that plays. We play both kind of music, country and western. Like I just find this like a very fun, like perfect epic comedy.
I haven't seen this in a really long time. I saw this back in high school, and I haven't seen it since. Believe it or not, it does have a 4K release. I do not own that one, so I do have to pick that up and watch it. But yeah, I liked it when I saw it, and I'm sure I would like it even more now. But I don't have much to add because it's been easily 10 plus years since I've seen it. Aaron, what about you?
It's been on my watch list. I need to see this one badly. I've heard great things, but nope, I haven't seen it.
And Brian, what about you?
Yeah, this is a movie that I have always loved, not only just because it's a hilarious comedy, and like you said, the chemistry between John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd is phenomenal, but it also just looking at it just as a music movie is awesome, because I mean they have all these moments, these musical numbers, when they have Aretha Franklin, they have Ray Charles, they have Cab Calloway, they have all these other people who perform these whole musical numbers, which I think is the only flaw I find in the movie is the pacing of it a little bit, because it seems like kind of just get to a point where there's like stop for a big musical performance now. It's like, oh, here's our next guest star. They're great musical sequences. It just the pacing kind of throws it off a little bit. But other than that, I mean, like Boatman already said, I mean, the comedy is great throughout. That car chase at the end, it just gets so epic, which you would not expect in most comedies, honestly, but especially from something that's based on Saturday Night Live characters. This, they took that and they turned it into this movie that's still probably the best SNL based movie. I love Carrie Fisher's small role in it. She was great as the like jilted ex-girlfriend, whatever you want to call her. And yeah, just it works as a music movie. It works as a comedy. It's a ton of fun. Actually, I missed the chance that this past summer they had a Blues Brothers celebration weekend or something down at Joliet State Prison here in Illinois, which is like an hour and a half for me because it's been decommissioned for years. And they're like, I think Dan Aykroyd's going to be there and Jim Belushi, and then they're going to play music and stuff. But I was not able to make it. Disappointed.
Fair. Okay. Aaron, let's go to you for your next one.
Yeah, this one probably one of my favorite movies ever. Definitely growing up, and 4 great Eddie Murphy performances. It's Coming to America. It just got to be that for me. I just like top to bottom, it just will make me laugh forever. I just love this movie. I love all the characters in it. As a Jew, great Jew face from Eddie Murphy in this movie. Not offended at all by that either. So, good on, he could be Joe Lewis's ass. The barber shop alone, great. I'm glad they never made a sequel. That's very good. That would be unfortunate if they did. Just sexual chocolate. I mean, when he goes to get his hair cut and he just cuts off his ponytail, he's like, that'll be $20. Like, he's just like, what are you using your hair? Like berries? Like, just the whole country of Zamunda, somehow even in 2020, still not offensive that this whole country exists of Zamunda. And like the misunderstanding as a kid, I didn't know what sow your wild oats meant. So like, I just imagined it as a literal saying as a kid. And I didn't understand what he was going to America to do. Then as an adult learning, like, and he's like, oh yeah, we're the finest women in America, queens. Like, that's where you're going to find the most, like, and just like, I don't know. It's just a great movie. It's timeless. McDowell's, Louis Anderson. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's great.
I saw this for the first time right before the second one came out. Sorry, Aaron, to bring it up. But and because I had never seen it before. And look at Tim go. He got the good old 4K Blu-ray, picked it up, watched it, and I really enjoyed it. I didn't love it to 5 out of 5 stars. But really, really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was really funny. I didn't realize it was going to be this like hard R-rated movie going into it, and then the movie opens and he's like, there's like naked ladies giving him BJs and shit. Like,
Royal penis is clean.
And he's so bored by it. He's just so unfulfilled by these. The royal penis is clean, Your Highness.
But he's great in the movie, and it's so funny. Like, it really is. And honestly, like, I think if it was maybe like 15 minutes shorter, I might have liked it even more, because I think it went on just a little bit too long. But I can definitely understand why people love this one. It's great. Boatman, what about you?
Oh, yeah. Coming to America is great. We bring up Landis again, and I think he's really good at giving these movies a good amount of scale. Like, a lot of comedy directors are not really great cinematic directors. Like, they're not really focused on that. They're focused on how best to tell the jokes, which is fair. That's the primary aspect of a comedy. But I think John Landis, obviously, he knows the technical aspects of a movie, and that's why I feel like his comedies always feel so large, because they feel cinematic. And I think Eddie Murphy is just giving a perfect comedic performance in this. Like, he is doing a balancing act of, oh yeah, sure, he's kind of doing like a funny accent, and a lot of actors can get lost in that, and then the movie gets really annoying. But he puts so much heart into that character that it works while still keeping it funny. And I think this is the first time, I believe, where Eddie Murphy did the multiple characters in one movie shtick. And as most things, it's also the best one that he did that, because it doesn't just feel like, hey, in your face, here's Eddie Murphy playing multiple characters in one movie. It's like, we're also going to do a funny thing where we're going to let him do a few other little bits here. I do really love this movie. I think it's a lot of fun.
Brian, what about you?
Yeah, well, John Landis had such a strong 80s. The problem is he hasn't really directed much of anything good since that. Well, I take that back. 1991, he did Oscars, so I'll give him that. But after that, he's just kind of disappeared. He didn't really do much else of note, and that's a shame, because back in the 80s, he was on such a hot streak. We just talked about Blues Brothers and this, and so many other Trading Places, all those things. This one is a classic for a reason. The whole thing with Eddie Murphy playing multiple roles, something like that can go really right or it can go really wrong. Luckily, in this case, it all worked. He did just a phenomenal job of doing all those roles. And I don't really have much else to add that you guys didn't already say. But yeah, this is fun.
Okay, awesome. I am cutting in and out a little bit, so I'm going to say my pick. And if I cut out, you guys talk about it. Like, just move on, and I'll be back. I'll do a reboot. Okay, so I am gonna go with, because that was Aaron, right? Yeah, Aaron picked that one. So I'm gonna go next, and I would feel like weird not picking this one. Like I feel like it definitely 100% qualifies, and I would feel weird if it wasn't on the list. And that's The Princess Bride. And because when it comes to the 80s, like, you guys know, like, I'm definitely more of like a 2000s onward type of guy, but like, if the movie's great, the movie's great. And so I just haven't gotten like super far into the 80s, where I've seen like all of these like super pop, like I saw Ferris Bueller's for the first time this year. Like I need to get deeper into the 80s, but this is one that like just makes me laugh every single time, so I feel like that definitely counts. One of my favorite watch-alongs we did during the MLM watch-along series was The Princess Bride. So much fun. This is Maggie's favorite movie of all time, and weirdly enough, I think we've only watched it like once or twice together in the entire time we've dated and been married, so that's kind of crazy. But yeah, it's just a really great, like, what are we supposed to say about this one? Like, I just love all the performances from beginning to end. Like, I don't think there's a single bad performance here. The fantasy stuff is great. The comedy is fantastic. The fact that the cutbacks to Fred Savage are fantastic. The whole movie just works on like literally every level. Like 1987, now that we're like putting it on paper here, damn, like holy shit, what a year. Boatman, what do you want to say about The Princess Bride?
Oh yeah, masterful. Like, this is maybe not a perfect movie, but it's a movie I haven't heard anyone say anything negative about. Like, this feels like a movie for everyone. And it's a movie that kind of pitches itself as a movie for everyone, with literally Peter Falk coming in being like, it's got true love, sports, you know, this, that, whatever. Like, because it's campy without like doing, it's like self-aware, but without like making fun of what it's making fun of, basically. Like, it's a very weird sense of irony that just hits on this perfect, like, yeah, we're being silly and we're like, you know, kind of joking about what we're doing, but we're also taking this very seriously. And I can't think of like another movie that does that, unless you want to say like maybe like Raimi's first Spider-Man movie, or like it's just a rare breed of like satire that isn't satire. I don't know how else to describe it. It's very unique in that sense, and I think this movie is just, it's, all the performances are so fun. I love the sequence of Wesley like fighting the three, like Inigo gets the sword fight, on Fezzik gets the, you know, the fun little moment with Thunder the Giant, and then I love the Benzini Battle of Wits. That is so fun. This movie is great.
I do want to say that because Garth is in the chat, Garth, I messaged you on Messenger. Hit me back up, because Garth was supposed to be on the show tonight. He wasn't able to make it due to personal stuff. But Garth, I do want to save one spot at least for you on the list, which is what I messaged you before. So message me a pick, and we'll put it on as the last spot, because we'll have 2 extra spots. So message me back, Garth, if you're watching. Okay, Aaron, Princess Bride, what do you think?
Yeah, it's wholesomely ironic almost, would be like the way I'd try to, like, it just it's very aware, but it still keeps that just like wholesomeness to it, which keeps it kind of for everybody. Yeah, it lives up to the hype too. I saw this very late, and this was probably a year or 2 ago I saw this, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah, not much more I can add than that, but I really do think it's perfect for this list. I'm glad someone chose it.
Brian, what about you?
Yeah, Princess Bride is a perfect film. Like you said, it works on every level. It works for every genre. It's got something for everybody. It's one of those that you hear so much praise for and love for. It's like you kind of think that you'd get like sick of it and be like, okay, let's just not ever do it, folks. But you can't with this one, because it's worthy of every bit of praise it gets. It's one that I probably watch at least every year or 2. And it's just like a who's who of great actors in it. So, you know, that's great.
Yeah. All right. So we're moving on to Brian, I believe.
Okay. I'm not going to go too obscure tonight. But there's a movie it's very underrated and underseen, I think. Largely because it's never been available like to view very easily, like on digital, until last month. They finally put it out on digital. You can go buy it or rent it on Vudu, whatever. Until then, it's only been on DVD, and that is Better Off Dead from 1985. Better Off Dead is John Cusack back in his comedy prime. He did this, and he also did One Crazy Summer with the same director, Savage Steve Holland. Of course, he went on to do like Say Anything and things like that. Moved on to more serious roles. But this is kind of the big breakthrough movie for John Cusack, where his kind of trademark kind of just dry wit, and he's almost like the straight man in the middle of madness going on around him, and yet everything he's doing and how he does it is just so funny. His reaction to things, it kind of you can kind of see the thread that goes from this all the way through to like Grosse Pointe Blank. It's got that same kind of character to him. This is a movie. If you look at it through today's lens, there are going to be some political correctness issues with some of the jokes. Just let it go. But yeah, it's absurd. I mean, there's things in it that are just like, you know, weirdly unnatural happening with like his mom cooks his food that just comes alive and crawls across the table. It's got gags like that, but a lot of it's just it's this kid in high school who is dumped by his girlfriend and it's a very simple story about how he really wants her back and he's obsessed with her. His best friend, played by I just played
Curtis
Armstrong. Yeah, you might know as Booger from Lord of the Rings, or you might know as Herbert Viola from Moonlighting. He is great in this movie. But yeah, this is one that I think is really worth checking out. Just know it's kind of a weird form of comedy. The whole movie's. I remember my dad at the time this came out didn't want me to see it because he said it made light of suicide, and he was all worried about the message that it sends. I'm like, it's a fucking comedy, Dad. Just back off. But yeah,
Dad.
It's a lot of fun if you haven't seen it.
I have not seen it, but you piqued my interest. Boatman.
Yeah, I'm not big on this one. I like Cusack. I feel like about movies like this where like half of it feels like it needed to pick a lane. It either needed to go full farce or it needed to be more grounded, because it's kind of trying to be both, like with the weird jokes, the food crawling around, but then it like is a little more grounded in areas, and it's just like, let me know what the reality is. Where are we in terms of the reality? Like, is this just an anything goes farce, or is this a world with consequences? Like that's my thing. Is I don't like movies in terms of farce that go halfway. If you're going to give me farce, give me farce. If you're not going to give me farce, don't give me farce. But don't give me 50% farce.
Aaron, what about you?
Yeah, I'm really surprised you picked this, Brian. I like this movie a lot, and it does go into the weirdness, I think, in a actually appropriate way with the subject matter. And I don't think it's like even disrespectful either. I just think it, is, I don't know. I was like not expecting it to be as bizarre as it is, but then at other points it does get to that very wholesome, like grounded point as well. And I kind of like the tonal shifts. It worked for me. I can understand it. If it doesn't, it causing you to kind of check out of the movie also. But yeah, no, this is an underrated, and surprised Brian would pick this, but yeah.
Okay. So Boatman, I did hear from Garth. He sent me what his top 4 or his top 5 would have been. Do we want to go with his top 2, or do we want to give somebody else here one, or do Garth's 2?
Let's give Garth his 2.
Right, so Garth's number 1. I don't know the year, but wait, no, yes I do. It is 84. Okay. So Garth's number 1 would have been The Princess Bride, but he wasn't going to bring it up because he did it for the based off books. So his number 1 is This Is Spinal Tap, which we have talked about on the show before. I'm sure he would go into great detail about it. I feel like I've talked to him about this movie too. Maybe he's brought it up on a different one too, or someone else did. But I do really like this movie. I think this movie is very funny. I saw it for the first time in high school, and I know I would like it if I watched it again. So it deserves a rewatch, but I remember thinking it was super, super funny. As somebody who is in bands and plays instruments and stuff, just like that comedic stuff, I thought was really great. So this is one that I do need to give a rewatch to. Boatman, what do you think about this one?
Oh yeah, no, this is one of those movies that I was like very hesitant to watch going in, because I kind of thought it would be a little cringe, to be honest. But no, this movie is like really smart and really funny. I think the mockumentary style really works for it. It's basically the OG Christopher Guest movie, even though it wasn't directed by Christopher Guest. Like, it's the exact same style and a lot of the same 3 main people as Christopher Guest movies. It's a lot out of the same style of like the heavy improv movie, but I think Christopher Guest, unlike somebody like, say, Judd Apatow, knows how to rein in his improvers and make them funny while still progressing the movie, instead of just letting Paul Rudd and Seth Rogen just trade jokes back and forth for 2 hours. I think that Guest is the master of the improv. I also think the songs are really good here. Like they feel like 80s rock songs. So I think that helps a lot. I like this movie a lot. I think the 3 main leads are fun. That Stonehenge scene is great.
Aaron, what about you?
I only know this movie from I Love the 80s clips that I've seen. So I know like when they get stuck in like the weird pods part, and I know the turn to 11. So, I've seen out of context jokes from this movie. So I'm totally qualified to talk about it. No, I would like to see it at some point. For sure.
Brian?
Yeah, this is another near perfect movie, and I don't like a lot of mockumentaries. But this one is probably the best one of all the documentaries I've ever seen. It got a great cast to it. Rob Reiner, who this is our second movie now, talking about him as director. I think this was his first movie as well too.
I believe
But
so.
it's great. I know they're making a sequel to this supposedly. I'm not too excited about that because I mean they've in the years since then they did like a follow-up album to it they released, and they did like TV specials and reunions and things like that. None of them are nearly as good as the original, but this one almost perfect.
Okay. And then Garth's number 2, I'll be frank, I haven't seen it, so I'm not going to talk about it, but I did look and I saw that both Boatman and Brian had this rated highly. So I think we will have something to talk about. His number 2 pick was A Fish Called Wanda. So I have not seen it, so I can't tell you shit about it, but I've heard that it's good. Boatman, Fish Called Wanda.
This is a masterful comedy. This is great. Legit, I think one of like the funniest scenes for me ever is the scene involving Jamie Lee Curtis and John Cleese at John Cleese's house, and John Cleese's wife comes in. That sequence had me crying laughing. It is so funny, specifically how Kevin Kline gets weaved back into that scene. Kevin Kline, one of the rare comedic performances to win the Oscar, and he deserved it. He is incredible. I think that this movie rules. Jamie Lee Curtis is super funny. Michael Palin gets a really funny subplot in this movie. Super fun. Love this movie.
Aaron.
Yeah, I need to see it. I know it's great, and I just haven't seen it.
And Brian.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is a great movie. It's essentially, I mean, it's not technically Monty Python, but you definitely feels like that American, like Monty Python meets that American sensibility, which I talked about on a previous log with Eric the Viking was kind of the same thing, but this one is far better than that. Because you have, with the American cast with Kevin Kline and Jamie Lee Curtis, but then you have John Cleese and Michael Palin. I think Michael Palin is the MVP of this movie. He is just because his brand of physical comedy and just his reactions and everything are just hilarious. And of course, Kevin Kline winning an Oscar for his role in this movie. This is just phenomenal. I do think that one of the things that surprised me about it is that the director of this is the same guy who directed Alec Guinness way back in the Lavender Hill Mobs. I mean, he'd been working forever. So it's a lot of fun.
Okay. So that's our list. Head over to the Letterboxd page to take a look at that list, hit like on it, and also see all the movies that we talked about tonight. So we're going to move on to the movie of the month. We're going to be talking about 2022's or 2022. That is not a 2022 film. It's a 2021 film. That's a typo on Tim's part. We're going to be talking about the 2021 film Pig. Who had a chance to watch it for this episode?
I
didn't watch it for this, but I have seen it.
Okay, Boatman, you haven't seen it yet?
I mean, I've seen it, but I didn't have a chance to like rewatch
the
it.
Same. This is like one of my favorite movies the last 5 years, but I haven't rewatched it for the show, and I do want to give it a fresh watch. Brian, if you're prepared to talk about it, Aaron, you're prepared to talk about it, we'll get reviews from you. Boatman, you want to wait?
Yeah, I'll be out here for 4 weeks. So
yeah, okay. So, Brian, why don't we start with you since you said you've seen it, but you didn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's still, I mean, it's relatively fresh in my mind. I don't remember all the details of it. I think I watched it in like September, I think, of last year.
Okay.
And this is, it's one of those movies where Nicolas Cage, of course, had kind of slid into that one of those, straight to VOD careers that, he and John Travolta and some of these other people have gotten to. And so this one I heard about, and I assumed it was going to be the same kind of thing. I mean, I saw it was getting a small theatrical release, but I'm like, whatever, it's him trying to look all gritty and serious and whatever. But then I started hearing the buzz for it, and so I'm like, you know what? I guess I got to check it out after all. And I I really love Nicolas Cage's performance in this. I think that he's not his normal crazy Nicolas Cage. He has a couple scenes where he gets to like show off a little bit of something, but for the most part, it's a very reserved role, more serious role. I think that he does very well showing, kind of his state of mind and his suffering and where he is at in his life compared to where he had been as this, high class chef. Again, this is a movie where I don't think I've loved it quite as much as other people do. I think I gave it a 3.5 on Letterboxd, but for me, that's a good rating. I think once you're above 3, you're getting into like positive reviews for it. Other than that, I honestly don't remember a whole lot of the details of it, but I wasn't happy with one of the the results of where things went later in the film, but I still enjoyed it.
Okay, so 3.5 stars.
Yeah.
Okay, Aaron, what about you?
Yeah. And just quick heads up, I might have to disappear for a second. I have a dog getting picked up from boarding for my business, but yeah, I really did love this movie. I love Nicolas Cage. And like kind of putting it simply, I feel this is like the mirror of like a John Wick, even though it was kind of advertised as John Wick. And
yeah, the marketing was weird.
And it's just like, again, I don't care about marketing. I'm an A24 fan in case you haven't met me before. And they fuck up their marketing for all their movies. I don't care about marketing or mismarketing. Like it's actually kind of baked into what the movie's talking about anyways. It's like I don't really want to spoil it, but like you're expecting it to be this revenge movie where violence is justified. And it's kind of the opposite. He has these very sweet conversations. He emotionally connects through the movie. Like chicks dig scars is like the total opposite in this. He has scars throughout the movie showing off, and it's disgusting. Like it's not like, and it's just like the whole movie. You're like, oh, it's crazy. Straight to DVD. Nick Cage. When's he gonna go nuts for his pig? And it's just so much more than that. I'm a foodie. I love food. I love chefs, and this is just like shows some delicious, modern cuisine that I would overpay for here in DC, and like kind of dives into that. Dives into do you do things for yourself or do you do things to maintain your business? All these just like really poignant themes. I don't know, the way the movie starts, like just you expect it goes down a different way than it does. And it doesn't justify violence or support violence being the answer. So it's like very much not John Wick. And that's what people got mad about with the movie. And that's what I love about the movie. It's by Neon, A24's cool cousin. So I can like it. So yeah, I would say 4.5 stars, honestly. It's a directorial debut. Feels like this guy's been directing forever. I can't wait to see his next movie. And I love Nicolas Cage.
I think it's in Quiet Place Day 1.
Yes, I believe so.
That's too bad. I don't like the Quiet Place.
I'm excited about that. So.
Maybe this will be a good one. Oh, I wonder if the kids will survive. Oh,
Oh
my God, the kids survive. Cool. Unless you're playing with the truck. But yeah, I'll be right back. But love this movie. 4.5 stars.
That's fair. And we're wrapping up anyway. So great.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Boatman, who's frozen in time, it appears, in a very fun way. This has been a great show. It was a quick one, but a fun one. And I had a good time talking about these movies with you guys. So thank you so much. So coming up next week, we got fantasy movies. One spot open. Take a wild guess what my first pick is. If you can guess right now, I'll send you a lollipop. The week after that, we got movies you want to live in. That's a full panel. And then we kind of may have alluded to it, but the last week of the show this year is SNL alums. That's a full panel as well. So we got a lot of fun stuff coming up. But those are the last shows of the year. That Tuesday before Thanksgiving, that will be the last show of the year, and then we will be off post Thanksgiving through January, the end of January. No shows in December, January. We'll be back the first week of February for the next set of shows. So thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next week. Like I said, one spot open for fantasy movies. We'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye.
In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening.